Upon arriving home on Friday evening, I had high hopes of enjoying a pleasant evening with my beautiful wife after a grueling week of travel. Our 3 grown children live independently, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity for us to spend some quality time together after 22 years of marriage. As I entered the kitchen from the garage, I noticed the mail on the table. Suddenly, I heard a noise upstairs followed by the sound of footsteps descending the stairs. To my delight, my attractive wife, who is 45 years old, entered the living room wearing a short robe that never failed to ignite my excitement. "Oh, you're early," she exclaimed. "I didn't expect you so soon." It wasn't until an hour later that I glanced at my watch and realized I had indeed arrived early, but not excessively so. Curiosity piqued. I inquired about our plans for the evening. "Where are we going?" I asked. However, her response caught me off guard. "Well, I'm leaving," she stated matter-of-factly. "I don't know what you're doing, okay?" My heart sank as I realized my weekend plans had suddenly been shattered. "What do you mean you're leaving?" I questioned, desperately seeking answers. "And with whom?" Her gaze shifted towards a small bag of belongings placed at the end of the sofa. "I have a date with William Strathmore," she revealed. "This is for the weekend. I'll be back on Sunday night, and then we can discuss it further." I was dumbfounded by her revelation. As I tried to process the situation, I realized I needed support. Without hesitation, I reached for my mobile phone and dialed my daughter's number. "Hello, Daddy. What's the matter?" she cheerfully answered. Determined not to be the bearer of bad news, I grabbed her mother's purse and emptied its contents onto the coffee table. "I need you to come here immediately," I pleaded. "Your mother has injured her head, and she needs us." Before I could say anything else, my daughter abruptly ended the call. I then contacted my son, instructing him to call his brother and urgently join us. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" he exclaimed, but I swiftly ended the conversation. Feeling a sense of urgency, I dialed my wife's parents and relayed the same message. Their response mirrored my confusion, resulting in a cacophony of raised voices and distress. Upon regaining consciousness, Judith's purse spilled its usual contents: credit cards, keys, and even a surprising stash of 12 packs of Trojan condoms. However, what caught my attention was the presence of a vasectomy confirmation email from the Marriott Hotel in Kenilworth, along with the details of rooms 703 to 710. Recalling my encounters with William Strathmore, whom I believed to be one of the pediatric surgeons at Judith's workplace, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Over the past 5 years, I had crossed paths with him a few times during hospital Christmas parties, and his slimy demeanor was the most generous description I could muster. Although his wife possessed stunning beauty, there seemed to be underlying issues within their relationship. Taking charge of the situation, I confiscated the credit cards and car keys, ensuring that Judith wouldn't have immediate access to them. As a precautionary measure, I tucked the email securely into my pocket. With a sense of urgency, I retrieved my mobile phone and unlocked it using our anniversary date as the passcode. Safety. Since Judith was still occupied upstairs, I seized the opportunity to consult the emergency contact list from her workplace, hoping to find a way to reach this dubious doctor. While his cell phone number proved unnecessary, his home phone number could potentially shed light on the situation. Dialing the number, I anxiously awaited a response. To my surprise, someone answered after just 2 rings. Realizing that I had dialed Mrs. Strathmore's number, I hesitated for a moment. However, I mustered the courage to explain the situation. "Oh dear, I was waiting for your call, but I don't recognize this number. Is everything all right?" Mrs. Strathmore inquired. Confirming my identity as David Collins, the husband of the head nurse at the hospital where her husband worked, I reminded her of our previous conversations. Mrs. Strathmore acknowledged the familiarity and expressed her anticipation of a call from William. Sensing the urgency, I cautiously revealed my suspicions. "Your husband isn't at home, is he? I just had an argument with my wife, and she informed me that she would be spending the weekend with him at the Marriott in Kenilworth until Sunday evening." Mrs. Strathmore's confusion was evident as she questioned the validity of my claims. In response, I shared the email confirmation I had saved, which detailed the reservation of 7 adjoining rooms. Upon reviewing the emergency contact list, I came across the phone number of Corinne Adams, the hospital's director of health. I was familiar with her as she was a close friend of my wife. Additionally, I knew her husband, who happened to be a detective surgeon. Without hesitation, I dialed her number, and she promptly answered. "Hello, who is this?" she inquired. "Karen, this is David Collins, Judith's husband," I responded. There was a brief pause before she exclaimed, "No, yes, Dave. What can I do for you?" Her tone clearly conveyed her concern. I proceeded to express my suspicions about an inappropriate relationship between Dr. Strathmore and my wife, and my desire for it to be investigated and put to an end. However, Corinne regretfully informed me that she couldn't discuss the matter at that moment and abruptly ended the call. I couldn't help but feel perplexed by her reaction. Shortly after, Judith's cell phone began to ring. With a sense of unease, I answered the call on the 3rd ring. Before I could utter a word, the caller, without any hesitation, started speaking. "Judith, he knows everything. What did you tell him?" The tone of their voice indicated frustration. I responded, "Not everything, Karen, but I have gradually discovered some troubling details." The shrill sigh on the other end of the line provided a clear indication that our conversation was coming to an end. "Goodbye," they said, and abruptly hung up. I couldn't help but find the situation rather peculiar. Without delay, I obtained Judith's home phone number and dialed it. After 4 rings, a man answered the call. "Look, I don't want to upgrade my cable service," I stated, trying to clarify the situation. "Jerry, it seems like you've had a rough day," I continued. Confused, he asked, "Who is this?" I replied, "Dave Collins, Judith's husband." Recognizing my name, he confirmed, "Yes. What's the matter?" I explained to him the events that had unfolded and my suspicions. I also mentioned that I believe there may be more individuals involved, not just the 3 of them. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. "Are you thinking the same thing as me?" I asked, seeking confirmation. He responded, "I'm not entirely sure what I'm thinking, but one thing is certain. Judith won." The neckline of her dress descended nearly to the waist and was slit on the right side, extending to mid-thigh. Upon noticing her purse carelessly tossed onto the table, she exclaimed in frustration, "What the I need to leave and you've thrown away all my belongings." Hastily gathering her things, she moved toward the table, but I interjected forcefully, "Oh no, you're not leaving. Not now. Be quiet and leave." Despite her trembling protest, she asserted, "I don't belong to you. I can do as I please." In response, I asserted my own agency, remarking, "Well, in that case, so can I." With a swift motion, I seized the low neckline of her dress and tore it down, leaving her technically exposed, clad only in an open-cup bra, a French lace garter belt, and a smoky gray lace top paired with seam stockings. Amidst her shocked cries, she lamented, "My dress." However, I retorted, "No, this isn't your dress. I bought it for our 25th wedding anniversary, along with most of the undergarments you wore. If you intend to leave tonight, you won't be wearing this dress." Interrupting our tense exchange, my cell phone rang. Answering the call, I identified the caller as Mary Strathmore. She informed me that I had been correct in suspecting the car's theft, and she had reported it to the police. Explaining that the car was registered in her name as she had bought it for me, she revealed that the authorities had apprehended the perpetrator, who falsely claimed to be my husband and therefore entitled to drive the car. In response to his plea for legal assistance, she stated her intention to rectify the situation, expressing her regret over the predicament. Before ending the call, she conveyed a message for my wife, indicating her willingness to assist her in the future. As the conversation unfolded on speakerphone, Judith's shocked gasp and outcry resonated throughout the room. My children, sensing the tension, rushed in. Concerned for their mother's well-being, they inquired about the situation, expressing their dismay at the torn dress and directing accusatory glances toward me. Judith regained consciousness and surveyed the tense atmosphere in the room. She could feel the weight of her parents' disappointment and anger. Her mother's eyes were filled with concern, while her father's face was red with fury. Judith knew she had a lot of explaining to do, but she also realized that her actions had consequences beyond her own life. "I'm sorry," Judith whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Her mother rushed to her side, holding her hand tightly. "Judith, what were you thinking? How could you jeopardize your marriage like this?" Judith looked down, unable to meet her parents' gaze. "I don't know. I was confused and made a terrible mistake." Her father's anger simmered, but his disappointment was evident. "Judith, we raised you better than this. You need to take responsibility for your actions." As the weight of her choices sank in, Judith felt a deep sense of regret. She had let herself and her loved ones down. She knew she had a long road ahead to rebuild the trust she had shattered. "I understand," Judith said, her voice filled with remorse. "I will do whatever it takes to make things right again." Her mother squeezed her hand, offering a glimmer of support amidst the turmoil. "We love you, Judith, but you need to learn from this and make amends. It won't be easy, but we'll be here for you." Judith nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew that rebuilding her life would be a challenging journey, but with the love and support of her family, she was determined to find her way back to redemption. Hysterical, she pleaded with her mother for assistance. "Do you require assistance? Perhaps you should consider reaching out to your sister for help. You had promised to assist her with your mother. Maybe she can reciprocate the favor by helping you using those very words." I handed the note to her father and dialed her sister's number. As he read it aloud, the phone was answered. "Greetings. Is this David?" "Yes, Mavis, how are you? How is our mother faring?" "She is fine." "Oh, indeed, she is doing well. Judith has been incredibly helpful. I don't know what I would do without her. May I speak with her, please?" "Well, she is currently occupied. How about if I ask her to call you back later?" Mom snatched the phone and scolded her second daughter. "This is unnecessary, you self-centered and insensitive mother." Her sister screamed in a state of hysteria. Judith couldn't bear it any longer and collapsed onto the floor. Now she stood almost completely exposed in front of her children and parents. "Do not bother inquiring about my well-being, Mavis." She concluded the conversation amidst the muffled cries of her second daughter. Around that time, my phone rang once more. "David, it's Jerry. You were correct. I obtained a search warrant for 7 rooms at the Marriott Hotel. We conducted a search using a missing persons warrant that I had sworn in, and we discovered 12 additional individuals, including my wife, 3 male doctors, 4 female doctors, 4 nurses, and another female member of the HR team, as well as my wife. I deeply apologize, Dave. Truly sorry." "Me too, Jerry, but it is what it is. Thank you." I turned to my soon-to-be ex-wife. "Go upstairs and change into something appropriate. Then leave my house." She struggled to stand, her voice filled with sorrow, and turned to ascend the stairs. However, she paused and pleaded, "Please don't discard me like this." "Oh, so now you're concerned about being cast aside after ruining our marriage with your 'it's my body, I'll do as I please' nonsense. I have been tempted on numerous occasions. I could have engaged in a sexual encounter with a young waitress at the diner where we used to have coffee after our night shifts. I could have pursued a woman at the Lincoln dealership where we purchased the car. Even your own sister made advances towards me, but my heart belonged to you. Yet this is the appreciation I receive. Leave my life." In a state of complete disarray, she hastily ascended the stairs, leaving behind one of her high-heeled shoes. A heavy silence settled in the living room. It was then that my daughter spoke up, assuring me that she would ensure her sister doesn't do anything foolish. Approximately 30 minutes later, Judith descended the stairs with a suitcase, dressed casually in jeans and a sweatshirt. Her appearance was disheveled, with her makeup and hair in disarray. My eldest son intercepted her on her way out. "Don't worry, Mom," he said. "Adrian and I will plan your wedding in a way that won't interfere with your sexual escapades. After all, you didn't even invite us. Maybe Dad can bring along a new girlfriend." Adrian was Dave's serious girlfriend, a fact we were previously unaware of. Now it was all too clear. Lost and confused, Judith paused at the front door. Her mother accompanied her as she made her exit. Meanwhile, her father turned to me, seeking a solution. "Is there any way to overcome all of this?" he asked. "She clearly needs help, but nothing seems to be working." I suggested that she speak to my lawyer about it. "Remember, son," he said, "she loves you." I met his gaze directly and replied, "Funny way of showing it." It was ironic how they all spewed the same excuses, adults consenting to their actions, only realizing their wrongdoings when caught. It was later discovered that the esteemed doctor had misused the hospital's credit card to fund a weekend party, covering expenses for rooms, drinks, and food. The hospital attempted to keep the incident under wraps, listing 8 participants as being on duty or attending a fictitious official seminar or hospital event. Once this scandal came to light, several marriages fell apart. This wasn't the first party, but it would certainly be the last. I initiated divorce proceedings, although I'm typically a mild-mannered aircraft mechanic. Do you remember? I loved her more than anything, as they say in the movies, so I allowed the process to drag on while she sought counseling. The children stood by me, witnessing my efforts to salvage the relationship. However, it was an excruciating experience, blindsiding me like a sudden thunderbolt. I am astonished by my own obliviousness. United Airlines showed sympathy towards my situation and granted me an extended medical leave. Unfortunately, my wife lost her job, along with everyone else involved in the incident. The competent doctor was terminated from his position and faced legal action. Karen, as well as her deputy, also faced unemployment. This unfortunate turn of events resulted in a severe shortage of nurses, leading to several doctor positions becoming available. Regrettably, my wife became the latest member to be recruited by a sex club that was actively seeking new participants. She had been noticed for quite some time, and Karen had been persuading her, claiming that she deserved to have some fun. I was completely unaware of this. Moreover, many husbands derive pleasure from their wives engaging in sexual activities with other men. It took 6 months, but eventually, they convinced her. It took more than a year, but I loved my wife dearly and couldn't imagine my life without her. I constantly questioned whether it would be better to have her in my life or not. I monitored her closely, bombarding her with inquiries about the state of our relationship. She reported to me, and I listened attentively. This behavior began to drive her insane. However, after considering the advice of her therapist, her parents, and our children, she realized that I was putting in an incredible effort and that she loved me. I truly believed her. I decided to take legal action against the hospital and Dr. Strathmore. I had to wait in line behind his wife's divorce case, but I was ahead of the other victims. Together, we sought justice. The hospital faced unfortunate consequences. My children and I reached a settlement out of court, receiving a substantial sum of money, which remains confidential. The remaining plaintiffs were awarded a significant amount in sealed settlements. Unfortunately, my daughter-in-law faced rejection from society. I am unsure if her parents have spoken to her yet. Am I fortunate with the outcome? Am I satisfied with how everything unfolded? Perhaps it was due to the perfect timing of my mental clarity and the unwavering support from my children and friends. I never believed that I took my marriage for granted, but perhaps I did. It took over a year, but we have managed to rebuild our relationship, and our intimate life has become incredibly satisfying. Sometimes she weeps in the aftermath of intimacy and expresses remorse for the pain she has caused. However, there has been gradual improvement, and as I mentioned before, I deeply love her. Please do not mistake my affection for weakness. Approximately 8 months after that tumultuous period, I enthusiastically bid farewell to the doctor as he exited the gym. I administered a severe beating, resulting in 3 broken fingers and a crushed testicle. His once attractive appearance is now a thing of the past. Fortunately, I had the fortune of being accompanied by a police officer at that moment. Life moves forward. I understand that my actions may be considered distasteful and cruel, but one should never provoke my wife. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.